As a settler, I acknowledge how for time immemorial these peoples cared for the land where I'm privileged to be today. And as a queer person, I'm in solidarity with all whose history and culture others try to erase. My name is Oliver. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. I'm the director of the Langley Pride Society, and thank you all for joining me here this evening. Thank you for the City of Langley for giving us this space, and of course, thank you for the panelists for sharing with us. Shout out as well to Ash from Screaming Willow Bakes, who couldn't stay for the event, but she dropped off a lovely platter of cookies for us all to enjoy. Nathan, did you want to say a few words as well?
Thank you. So I am Nathan Hall. I'm the mayor here in Langley City, and we're really happy to be able to host this event today. So I was just doing a quick search today. It was like, I think it was a trans black woman that threw the first brick in Stonewall. And does anybody know her name? Okay, who? Exactly. So I think it's really good to remember folks like that. And as a gay man who's cis and all of that, I kind of get to take advantage of all the things that I know that trans folks push so hard for, and it's always trans people that are at the forefront of queer rights. So, I am very grateful for that, and the whole community is grateful for that. And this day started, I believe, in 1999, again, in recognition of the death of, I think it was 3 trans black women. So, if we can take that time to remember, I need, to learn our history, and that's something I try to do, and I encourage everybody to do that. So, I'm really excited about this panel and seeing where it goes. So, again, thank you for being here, and we're extremely proud to be able to host this event at the city.
Thank you. Before we begin, I want to note that some subjects we may touch on might be uncomfortable or upsetting. And while we can only grow in places that make us uncomfortable, I also want you to take care of yourselves. So if there's anything that makes you need to have a break, please feel free to step out of the room, grab water. It goes to all of you guys as well. There's various resources as well at the back, so if you need extra help, be sure to reach out. I'd like to first explain a bit about the significance of today and what it means for the transgender community. Then I'll introduce our lovely panelists and then begin the conversation. Lastly, with time permitting, we'll open up the floor for some questions. So if there's anything you'd like to ask, save it until the end. So today is Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is a day that asks us to mourn and remember those whose lives were stolen by hate and ignorance in acts of transphobia. This day was first founded by Gwendolyn Ann Smith in 1999, as she was honoring the memory of her friends, Rita Hester, Chanel Pickett, and Monique Thomas. All three were transgender women of color whose murders went unsolved and memories almost forgotten. Today has since become a collective day of witness and mourning for our transgender siblings so that they will not be forgotten and they will not only become a statistic. Each year we say their names, hold vigils, gatherings, and find the hope to carry on their legacy. It's more than mourning the loss of life, it's also mourning the future they never got to live, all because they tried to be themselves in a society that wasn't ready for their light. This isn't ancient history. This year, the TDOR info website is reporting 354 trans people worldwide who have died due to violent action or suicide. 68 of these reports come from the US and Canada. There are still places in the world where being gender non-conforming or trans is illegal. There are places not too far from here where trans folks live in fear of being outed or can't come out at all. Youth in schools can't play on sports teams that align with their gender or ask their teacher to use the correct pronoun for them. Adults are scared to travel in case their only document with the correct gender marker is seized. Just earlier this week, Alberta UCP's Bill 9 is invoking the notwithstanding clause to shield themselves from harmful transphobic policies that push us back to the closet. Transgender Day of Remembrance is also a time of action, to do what is in our power to stop transphobia and the violence it brings. For me, this year, that means addressing misconceptions and challenging the fear that people have around trans people. I'm sure we're all frustrated with seeing constant misinformation and redirection tactics in the media, and as of late, trans people have been a political scapegoat, causing hatreds against us and the 2S LGBTQIA+ community in general. However, if you give yourself the opportunity to know us, you'll see that we are your neighbors, your colleagues, your cousins, and your friends. Trans people have their own set of challenges, but at the end of the day, we just want to go to school, play sports, make art, find love, and pay taxes, and be... We have to pay taxes. So this evening, I welcome you to have that opportunity to get to know us from us. Thank you. So everybody introduce themselves, please. I've been doing enough talking already. Sure.
Hi, everybody. This week, of course, is a very important week for us as a society in general, but also for transgender individuals as well. Today is a very special day, and we must keep them all in our hearts, and try to make sure that we can minimize the hatred. At least try to bring some of the stories that we hear out in the open, because knowledge is going to be our greatest ally in our fight, at least to be known as people. We're the same as anybody else in the community. But I've lived in Langley my whole life. My name is Tony Bauer. We've been here for 20 years, and I'm transgender, and I'm not upset to say that. At first, I was really nervous because I was worried about safety and security for me, my family, and such. But now I know I'm just another person, and I don't feel threatened in our community at all. Although there are some aspects that tend to make you think one way or the other. Some things happen that you hear or you see that you want to help out others in our society as well, but unfortunately, we can't really be as open as we want to be. But that's all I have right now to say. I'm sure questions will come up, but we're here for each other, and we're here for transgender individuals as well. So I'll pass along. Yeah.
Hello. How's that? Okay. Hi, I'm Atticus. I'm trans. I use they, he, they pronouns. I have recently realized that I'm non-binary. Thanks to other trans people in the community, and I'm nervous to be here. I'm nervous to speak in front of all of you. You know what? I'm just pass it along. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kyler. I use he, him pronouns. I've been out for a little over 10 years now. I look 15, I'm 28. I will age well. I was raised in Langley. I live in Maple Ridge right now, born in Surrey, so I've been around a little. And I think Tony summarized a lot of it, so I'm just going to pass it on so Ailey can introduce you.
My name is Ailey, and sorry, pronouns are she, her. I'm a trans woman, and I don't know what else I could add to all of that other than happy to be here. Yeah, I'm very glad that you're all here, because this is an important day, and just posting on Facebook about it doesn't mean much these days, and I don't think I even posted anything on Facebook today. In fact, I think my absence from Facebook is my statement today. But thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone. So let's begin with just an easy question. When did you realize that you were transgender, and what sparked your decision to begin your transition? Go ahead, anybody that wants to. Atticus, you look very ready. Go ahead.
Okay.
And it wasn't until 2015 when I made friends with, a very transgender group of people that I related to them like a lot. It still took me 2 years to come out. I came out in 2017. Came out to my boyfriend at the time, my friends, and my work actually early in that year. And later that year, I came out to my family, and it went better than I expected, actually. But so I've been out and about since 2017, and I'm still figuring myself out today.
Yeah, it's a journey that doesn't really stop.
It never stops. I'm sure I'll continue to discover myself as I age too.
I forgot the question.
When did you first realize you were trans?
Thank you. Sure, I'll go, I guess. I kind of realized when I was 15-ish, that's just the age I recall, but I was feeling pretty not myself for a while before that, but I didn't come out until 2015. I think I was 17, which was after high school graduation, and I had some health things going on that I wanted to get behind me before starting that journey. And so I was 17, and I don't remember if there was more to this question, Oliver.
Was there some particular incident that sparked you wanting to move forward and transition?
Right, okay, thank you. I thought there was more to it. I was like, I have a longer response than that. And so I don't remember a particular instance, but I knew I needed to pursue that after having waited 2 years or so. And so I thought, well, the summer before going to university would be a great opportunity. So cut my hair, mom took me shopping for me, and got some new clothes, and I picked a name pretty quick, and I stuck with it. And then by university, I was kind of myself, and I healed too medically, so I was ready to go. But being 17, I was a minor, so I couldn't pursue anything legally or medically without both parents' consent. My dad's estranged, so I knew that wasn't going to happen for me. So the 2 years, as rough as they were in my journey, it was kind of nice because then I could live as myself before I did anything permanent or investing any money into the journey, because it's expensive, guys. And then I was 19, and it took a few months to get the paperwork sorted, but when I was 19, first thing I did was change my name, and I never really looked back, so it's just felt right every step.
I knew when I was 5. That's a classic experience with some of us, and I didn't have the language, so all I could do was feel maybe gaslit, like I knew something about myself and nobody agreed with me. So it was probably 2007 that I had actually found the term transgender, and I was able to start putting parts of myself under an umbrella and putting labels on it. I might have been out to a select few people in my life, but there wasn't much to be done. There wasn't much I could do. There weren't any paths for me to move forward, and my dysphoria was managed by my dissociation. So just keep moving forward in life, keep tuning out and putting up the blinders, and everything will be fine. Well, that failed once COVID hit. So after COVID, I realized that it didn't matter. I knew I would lose a lot of things. We base trust in our society on feeling. And when people make drastic changes in their lives, other people don't trust them less. Other people trust them less. And that's human nature. So I knew a lot of things were going to change for me, and a lot of things were going to get upset. And it was a whole cycle of things that I lost and gained. But I'm glad I did it, and I can't regret it, and I would do it again.
I knew that I was different when I was It was a difficult time for me, being the oldest one here. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I had no means of discussing this with absolutely anybody at the time because we were known either as crazy or throw us in, I don't know, hospital or whatever. Anyways, I grew up in Vancouver and it was a really, really difficult time. There was no way of discussing it with anybody. So I kept it buried for 25, 30 years and tried to manage it, but of course it was a losing effort. I tried to get through being the boy that I was, and it led me into things that I obviously can't talk about here, but I realized that I could start to find the literature in the 80s and 90s, which made the terminology for me, the understandability to find out exactly why I was feeling the way that I was and how to manage that. It was so difficult of a process that the only time I could have possibly come out when I did was around 2015. I was married at the time. I'd been married for 4 years. My spouse did stay with me, which I can say that's one thing. We have 2 daughters. I waited till then because the kids were old enough to at least understand and accept who I was. And I started to transition, and things were bad for a couple of years. I wound up having some issues with my youngest daughter, but overall, the transition's been rocky. I am pretty well done now. As far as I'm concerned, I'm finished. I just live my life the way that I want to live my life, and everyone else accepts me for who I am. My friends all accept me. We have a camping club. We go trailering and such. Between 4 or 5 other couples, they all accept me for who I am. We get along great. I'm trying to help the community out right now. I am mentoring another transgender woman in Aldergrove. So I'm trying to pay forward. And all I can say is, if you have any questions at all for me, being that I'm the oldest one here, it's been tough, but I am willing to talk about anything. If you have any personal questions, I can take you, we can go aside and we can definitely discuss it. But I can talk about certain things if you have any questions in regard to living with it and how to manage it, and if you have any positive outlooks on, if you know anyone else that needs the support, please let us know up here and we can definitely talk to them. Thank you.
Thanks. And it really, everybody here kind of is in agreement that it's knowing the terminology and the language and just having access. So we kind of, some of you already mentioned, but if you have done any medical transition, does anybody want to explain a little bit of the process it took to get to the point where they are, like starting hormones or any surgeries or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't mind. That's everybody else. Go ahead.
I need my notes.
I realized that when I started to transition, Transcare BC is your first, the first people that you should contact. I contacted them and went through some therapy to assure the government that I was who I said I was, and I was transgender, on and on. But they will help you find a doctor, they will help you find any literature that you might need, to decide which way you want to go. Not all of us do seek medical treatment, but I did seek the medical treatment. So like I said, Transcare BC will put you in touch with a doctor, and then you can be prescribed on hormones and go from there, because you do need to be on hormones for at least a year before you can start to discuss surgical treatments for your dysphoria. I decided to go with the medical treatment, and of course, I went to Montreal at the time because BC Clinic wasn't open at that time. I think Vancouver, when did they start? Around 2020? 2021, yeah. And I had my surgery in 2018. So it's just a matter of finding a path, like to go back a step. If you're looking at the information to change your name, your gender marker, that can be a little tricky. I had to deal with 2 provinces, so I had to get my name changed, then switch over to the other province and get them to send a gender marker. Then I could get my driver's license, my medical, all that changed. As far as I'm concerned right now, I've got absolutely everything changed that I need to change. So if there is any questions in regard to that, like I said, I'm here as well to talk to, and I can definitely give you that information. But I'm post surgery now, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm the way I should have been at birth. So I'm happy the way that I am, and I would never even consider going back. I'm on the good side now.
I think I would just add that there's also the Catherine Holman Wellness Center. This is for low barrier access. They interface a lot of things into Transcare BC. It's a great starting point if you don't know where to start. I've gone through the Catherine Holman Wellness Center both for my readiness assessment, which let me start my hormone therapy, as well as all of my legal name change and document change and gender change and all of that. Technically, according to the logistical meaning of the word, I'm cis because I'm aligned with my document. But, you know, that's not what this is really about. Just because my document says it doesn't mean the society is going to react that way. So there's still a lot of work to do. I would say that my general practitioner was much more supportive than I expected. I was ready for a fight, and I got what I wanted. I got what I wanted on day 1. She was willing to start me right away with a prescription. I was able to go fill it that day. And then I was able to see an endocrinologist and do the rest. This was just like 5 years ago.
Okay, I have my notes now. It's been a long journey, guys. For me, since I had to wait till I was 19, I kind of had an idea by then what I knew I needed to start with, which was HRT. For me, that's testosterone. And that took from the time I was 19, I went to, I don't know if it's still there anymore, but it was Three Bridges Clinic in Vancouver on, I want to say Hornby Street, but in that area anyway. They were very lovely, and I cannot remember the doctor's title for the life of me anymore, but I called her my transition doctor. She did all my assessments and everything for anything I needed, and the nurses there showed me how to do the injections, and I think by the time I started testosterone, it was about 8 months from my assessment and the blood work after I was a legal adult to do that. And then I had a hysterectomy, a partial hysterectomy. I cut my ovaries. That I knew I wanted that for as long as I can remember because I have endometriosis. So that was a long 7-year wait to be old enough, but also trans was a bit of a blessing because I could have it at age 20. So and I never ever looked back on that. I personally stopped testosterone after a year, but I'm on other hormones to manage my endometriosis pain. So if anyone has PCOS or endo, I'm happy to talk about that later. And then through my doctor there, she did an assessment for me for top surgery, which I had, I think I was 22. I was so lucky I got canceled cancellation just a few months before COVID. Like, oh my God, what a blessing. Again, I was just blessed. And again, never looked back. And I had Dr. Genoway actually, who does the trans clinic in Vancouver too. She's very, very lovely, would recommend. Yeah, and I just kind of, I mean, COVID obviously delayed a lot of stuff, but you know, I just ended up getting to focus on university finally, managing part-time work, university classes, and a transition, you guys. Like, it's like full-time, like taking 2 full-time jobs at the same time. And I mean, I remember my partner and I driving down at like 7 p.m. to Vancouver so I could get my documents notarized for free. Bless that lawyer who did that for trans people, so I could legally change my name. And I got the notification, hey, there's a cancellation tonight. And I'm like, can we go? He's like, yeah. So off we went. And yeah, it's a long process, but I think I got pretty lucky in my experience. Yeah, that was my medical experience so far. Your turn.
So as far as my medical experience goes, I went through Transcare BC originally, and they assigned me a nurse practitioner for to be my family doctor in 2018. By the time I got to 2019, I was prescribed hormones, which I was only on for a few years now. But thanks to PCOS, I am still growing more facial hair and things. Blessing in disguise, I guess. But I actually haven't had any other surgeries. I haven't even changed my name legally. I gotta get on that one of these days. But my transition has been just a few years of hormones, and that's it. And I will probably pursue a hysterectomy, but other than that, I'm actually quite happy with my body the way it is. Yeah,
Everyone's journey looks very different, and like there's no one correct way to do it. Like there's lots of hoops we have to go through and to meet certain criteria to get into things. And yeah, and everybody has different bodies. Like you have different health problems that affect what you can and can't do. I'll talk about myself a little bit because I did this in Alberta, and I had to get 3 different psychologists to sign off that I existed as who I was. And there's only, 2 therapists and then 1 psychiatrist actually. And there's only, at the time, there's only 1 psychiatrist in the entire province that could do it. So that was about a 1.5 years wait. So it takes a long time. You have to be, I mean, not have to be, but you kind of have to commit yourself to pursuing it. So it's a lot of work, as everybody else said. It is. Yeah. Anybody?
I just want to add that there were a lot of changes in BC recently, in Canada at the federal level, but also things that BC has implemented. The readiness assessment I took, I didn't have to have a psychiatrist know, and this is epic for us, for many of us. It's a psychiatrist note just to start your life, whereas I was able to get hormones as soon as I was ready, because I was educated. I was educated on the matter. I was informed. I had what's called informed consent. I knew the risks of what I was doing, and I chose it. I had therapy. I had support networks, and I had a job that could pay for the support I would need. So that was what was needed for my readiness assessment. And then after that, it was a matter of my endocrinologist deciding what that hormone therapy looked like as the years progressed. It's such a different story than it is, and that doesn't exist everywhere else. That's not necessarily how it is in Alberta even this year, and that's not how it is in other countries. The World Health Organization and Canada and BC have done a lot to make it easier, but the whole world needs to get on this.
Besides hormones and surgeries, what are some other gender-affirming care that you guys do? Like routines that even a cisgender person does and they might not even think is a gender-affirming care? Like shame.
See, I got this on purpose. Didn't want to deal with it.
I'll just add that my thighs didn't stick together, and I get called certain names in traffic that I didn't get before.
Then you know you passed. I can go. I'm gonna read my notes though, because I don't remember this as well.
Question two, so yes, you up.
You skipped the question?
I did. That's fine.
I just scrolled. When I first started exploring, and I think for most trans folks or non-binary folks, when they start exploring their gender, the only thing we really have to look to is society's genders, which is hyper-masculine or hyper-feminine. So for me, because I had 2 years before I could do anything medically or legally, clothes were a huge gender-affirming thing I had control over that I could do. So discovering something that worked for me, it was what makes me look masculine, what makes me look like a man. And then over time, and so today, that's changed to what am I comfortable in? What do I like to wear? What's comfortable? And then I have made a little note here, just because I think it goes beyond clothes or medical or physical things, but hobbies as well. I've always wanted to crochet. That's generally a female hobby, but I said screw it. Am I allowed to say that? I really Everyone's above 18, right? But I said whatever a couple years ago, and I taught myself to crochet, and I love it. And I make stuff for donations, or for family, or myself, or friends, and it's just another fun, satisfying thing. And I just wanted to know, like, hobbies can be, they don't have to have a gender for them.
Like something for me is I do not like sports, but I have to know the game to socialize with men, and it sucks as all of them because I'm also gay, if you can tell.
Me too. Oh my god.
But that's another thing too, like hobbies, like needing to talk about the game to fit in with guys. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, oh yeah, sure wasn't a shutout. I don't know.
Yay, sports. It's football.
I got really lucky because I'm what you call high fem. I'm high fem, I'm binary, female, trans. So these things lined up for me to just be me, and everybody can tell that I'm a trans woman and acting like one. So it's really one thing that society has to embrace is that how you present is not necessarily who you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we have to keep working on that.
What was the most surprising part of transitioning for you?
I have
You have one?
The paperwork. Holy cow, guys. It took me 3 months just to get all the paperwork together just to apply for a new birth certificate. That's insane. And then it took like a year to update it everywhere else. Get the new driver's license. Oh, you can't do that until you get this. Oh no, you need that form to go with it. Like, holy cow. Like, I just Googled everything. I didn't really have support. I just Googled it all and tried to understand it.
And this kind of stuff isn't trans exclusive.
No.
Like anybody could lose a birth certificate and need one, or get married and change their name and then realize, oh, I have to change my SIN to update with my new name. Oh no. Yeah. So just kind of reaffirming that our issues are similar to everybody else's issues.
Sorry, that was so surprising
Yep.
to me. Granted, I was 19, but you know.
What was the question?
The most surprising part of transitioning.
The emotion.
Yes.
No, really, as a person that dissociated a lot, I can see an emotion and go, oh, put it over there, and get it out of the way and not deal with it. And part of that was because any strong emotion took me to a place where it was just all too much. Whereas now I can sit in the middle of like a real depression, but love the person in the mirror and eat some ice cream. So that's new.
You just said nice.
So is this one more?
Yeah, I agree with the emotions. When I was on testosterone, I couldn't actually cry, which was the weirdest thing. Yeah, right?
Can't confirm.
But I was still feeling all the emotions so much, and even to this day, just so many emotions compared to how I used to be, and it's so surprising. But I think everything else was not very surprising because I had to Google everything because I felt like I needed to know everything to make sure I could answer everyone's questions. Too many questions.
What was the question?
We're all the same, really.
The most surprising part of the transition.
Oh, Lord. The most surprising part for me was how people perceived you as you started your transition. That was one of the hardest things that I had to navigate. But after a while, after being on hormones, female hormones for a certain period of time, as you know, things started to flood. Like I wound up being far more emotional than I used to be, and my temper swings too. It wasn't just even keel. It was like all over the place until everything leveled off. Then everything, was a lot easier to manage. But right now, everything's just hunky dory the way it should be, right? Like I said, I'm the oldest one here, so I mean, as far as hormones go for me, I'm off hormones now. I don't even care about hormones anymore. I'm still I still take medication and that, but hormones doesn't bother me anymore. Like, it doesn't matter. Plus, I just live my life the way I'm supposed to live my life. So. Anybody?
What is one piece of advice that you wish you knew before starting transitioning? Of course.
I prepared. I do, it's like an exam, like on the spot, my brain goes blank, so I'm just gonna have notes just in case. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw that question was, I remember, sorry mom and dad, arguing with my parents a lot because they slip up my name and pronouns. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, be patient because they're trying. And that's really all we can ask for those around us. There are kids who are kicked out of their homes. There are kids who are bullied. There are kids and adults who are killed, such as why we have today, because they just don't care. And my family cared, and they were trying. And I wish I could go back and say, just give them time. Like, correct, if they don't catch it, but most of the time they did. And just be patient because they're trying. And it certainly took me a while to get it correct in my head. So, it's a shock to the people around you, pretty much all the time, really. You don't have a kid and be like, yeah, they're gonna be trans one day. Like, we don't expect that. It just happens sometimes. And just giving your loved ones some grace when you're starting that process, I think is very important. If they're trying. Of course, protect yourself first and foremost always.
I actually don't have anything for this one.
So you researched everything.
I was too prepared.
I have notes, so
I agree with the being patient to yourself, because I look back on a lot of my early transitioning stuff and being like, I wish I could hold myself and just say, calm down a little bit, you will get there.
Yeah.
And I think I was so angry because of, as I was talking about my long waiting period that I had to do to get started on anything, and I was just angry all the time, even without testosterone.
I didn't start hormones until my late 40s, and that would be because too much tolerance and patience. I wish I could tell my 5-year-old self and my young self that you're right, you're absolutely right, and you know what's best, and just do your life, do it your way. Because there's nothing about being transgender or my path as a transgender person that I should have known first. I know it, and I studied it, because I waited so long. But people I'm gonna lose anyway, so.
We don't want them in our life.
How often does being trans come up, or how has it otherwise impacted accessing other things in medical care or social services?
Sure, I've had another surgery not related to being trans, and I had to deal with that here at Langley General. There was a lot of confusion among the staff, a lot of curiosity, a lot of questions. There's certain procedures that I know that the medical community wants to use, but there's still so much education and retraining to be done. And the medical staff who are out there every day doing the hard work, they don't have time to go retrain, but there are things they've been doing they need to change. And so we have to delicately change that somehow. People have been great, they haven't tried to hurt my feelings or be rude to me, but just their general confusion in my presence, they don't always understand that impact.
Yeah, that's about what I was gonna say is I've had lots of medical problems. I spoke to so many doctors and nurses, and yeah, there's a lot of confusion. Nobody's that I know of has tried to hurt me, but I constantly deal with having to tell people when removing my pronouns. You know, somebody call it underling. It's obvious, thank you, politely of course, but it comes up at least once a week for me, and it's some days it's hard because I'm at a medical appointment, I'm tired, and I have to explain myself to a stranger, a brand new stranger. So, yeah.
I'm kind of lucky. If I don't pass as male, I pass as a female tomboy, or a 15-year-old. I get that a lot. I find it's usually the older, like grandma, grandpa generations that misgender me. And it depends on where I am in the situation, but I find it pretty consistent with them, and I'll correct it where I can, where appropriate, and they're like, huh, really? You know, I'm like, yeah, you know. But I get it, because they grew up in a world where it was hyper-masculine or hyper-feminine, and I'm more feminine, so they put me there, and I get it. It doesn't bother me anymore on a good day. Sometimes when you're out, we all have bad days, and on those days it's like, really? Okay, like there's not much more I can do, or that I want to do, to change that. But usually I'm pretty good. I rarely think about it. I'm pretty lucky that way. Of course, until my endo started acting up this year, and I'm back at the BC Women's Clinic as a trans guy. That's fun. But thankfully, I'm not the only one that they've treated there. They have several trans guys have come through with endometriosis there, actually. So I'm not an anomaly. I was happy to learn. Sad, of course. I don't want anyone to have that, but yeah.
For me, it's been pretty easy transition for me. Since I did start late, it's actually gone really, really smooth. The younger individuals, I can say, would probably be a lot more difficult. Being that I'm older, I don't know honestly, I don't know what the difference would be if I was male or female in regard to the way I look. But I haven't had any misgendering. I've been really, really fortunate being older, but I haven't had any stares. I haven't had anybody say, "What are you?" It's been really, for me, it's been quite easy. The transition. I mean, now it's just like I'm just there. I can just live my life the way that I was supposed to live my life, and it's been pretty good. It's been good. Everybody I know has accepted me for who I am. So yeah, I don't know if it's why that is. If it's because I'm older, or I don't know. But it's been quite easy for me. So I can say maybe starting later, being that I didn't start till I was 57, right? Transitioning. I knew who I was, I knew what I had to do, and I knew how to get there because I did so much research. I have 5 binders of paperwork, like for my transition, my medical, my birth certificate, how to get my birth certificate, how to do my name change, how to do my passport, how to do all my home insurance stuff, how to do my medical, my driver's license, blah, 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 on it goes, my life insurance, everything. I'm an engineer by trade, and I have generally worked in masculine, everybody, so many male engineers, and people that I dealt with in male-dominated industry. Even that went well for me, although being in a masculine sort of career, it did make a difference in certain ways, like with paperwork and such. But I feel as if I've sort of got through it quite easy. I know it's probably difficult for a lot more individuals out there, but I think honestly, if I wouldn't have waited when I did, a lot of older people like myself, we had real hard issues during the 70s, 60s and 70s. It was a difficult, terrible time, male, female, that's all there was, so I hid a lot. But those are questions that if anybody has any questions, I'd be willing to answer. So, who's next?
I'll share just one quick story about accessing other social services. When I was getting my name changed on my ID, at the time it was a temporary application that I was doing. Or no, not my name, my gender marker changed on my ID. I went to the registry and they kept saying, she wants to change her gender marker to male, how do I do that? Can you, do you hear what you're saying? Yeah. But that's the one thing that stuck with me like 12 years later that I'm like, wow. It comes up, and then we were talking about this on a Zoom call about how it even comes up even at the dentist. Like, what medication are you taking? Why are you taking that over trans? Like,
But they're having a conversation with themselves because they got their fingers in your mouth the whole time.
That is
You can't even answer, you can't correct them.
But it comes up a lot in medical things. It does not need to come up at all, but it's awkward because yes, I do need to disclose that I'm on this medication because you're about to hear.
Oh, you're trans, what's that like, Oliver?
I'll tell you.
How long has it been?
Let's move on.
Sorry.
You kind of talked about it earlier, Kyler, with your crocheting, but how does being trans challenge your idea of what masculinity or femininity means? Or it has that? Yeah.
Oh, you have a second question to this?
No.
Oh, I can't do that first.
What did I say? What do you want me to say?
Do you see trans people as a disruption to gender
Oh,
norms?
I changed the wording.
You didn't send me that document.
Okay.
I'm a living disruption to gender norms in society, guys. I just really need to say that today. But like I said earlier though, we only have society's gender norms to look to when we're trying to figure out, okay, I realize I identify as male. How do I present that? How do I show it? So, I mean, which, like I said, like they're hyper masculine to look to. But when I kind of became obviously confident in myself, it was a journey, guys. I kind of realized like I don't need to conform to society's ideas of gender because that's kind of what transgender is. It's a journey. It's figuring out who you are, and or really not even transgender. It's just people. People should be allowed to express themselves as they're comfortable being. Why do clothes have gender? Okay, men's pants make way way more sense than women's. Okay, they have the measurements on the waist and the measurement of your leg. They have pockets. You can put your phone in. It makes so much more sense. Why do they do that to women? Like, oh, we could go into a whole other conversation about that. But yeah, like I just kind of figured out like just be who I am. Just love who I am. And the people who appreciate that, they'll be with me. They'll have my back. I'm glad I can make people laugh today.
Fashion doesn't define who you are.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry. How does being trans challenge your ideas of what masculinity or femininity means?
I think the challenge comes when I'm at my most reclusive, for lack of a better term. I don't mean that in a negative way. When I want to be home and just be myself and lock the doors and not answer the phone and watch TV, just be with myself. That was a hard one because I had a lot of clues to give people in society with my hair and my makeup and my dress and other things. But just sitting there with myself, I found all of these attachments on me that came from trying to be a gender that I wasn't. And as I started taking those off, I realized that sitting around in just my t-shirt, being a slob, I'm still a girl. And I'm happy that way.
Yeah. We all have that side of us.
Do you have any question?
I don't have anything to add. That was,
Yeah.
I covered it, yeah.
So let's talk, what are some of the wildest things that a friend, family member, or stranger has assumed about you because you are transgender?
It's, okay. I just have one. It's just, my grandma, when I came out to her as trans, she said, "Oh, but I thought you were a lesbian now." And you know what? She said that to me recently again. I thought you were just gonna be a lesbian. Yeah, thank you.
I can go on a whole tirade about the difference between gender expression, identity, and sexuality. Come to my TED Talk next week.
Weekly TED Talks.
Similarly, I came up to my mom and was like, "Okay, Mom, this is the deal." And she says, "So you have a boyfriend now?" And I said, "No, Mom, I'm gay for women." And that was a moment of silence for her.
That's actually really funny you brought that up because it's like being trans is separate from sexuality, and it's like it takes a moment for your family and friends for that to click. So it's kind of funny, you know, I didn't think to have that experience. I don't know if we ever really discussed it. Mom was just like, you'll bring whoever you bring. I think it was the focus was on my gender identity. But I remember would I get the surgery? We all did that. That wasn't my parents, but another family member.
There's several options, and as I said earlier, it's not about, some people don't want to do anything, they don't even want to take hormones, well, they don't even want to change their name.
I mean, that was in my first year. I was 18. I couldn't even do hormones. I couldn't apply for an name change. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm 18. Like, are you gonna have a surgery? Like, let's talk about your genitals. Like, we don't talk about that. Like, with friends most of the time even. Like, there was assumptions I'd be a big hairy man. I was gonna grow facial hair and get hair everywhere. No, I stopped tea before that happened. And there was some struggles with family trying to find external influences to justify my gender identity change. It was close friends. Mostly I remember a couple of close friends I had, or my partner. I met 9 months after I come out, so that was kind of a funny one. Yeah, I think there's some interesting, but it goes back to, again, society's gender norms. That it's like, no, I'm gonna just go as far as as far as I want to until I'm comfortable. Right? Yeah.
And as well, the outside influences, like, oh, I bet your dad left your mom and you
Yes.
need a man.
About that one.
Yeah. there's just a lot of influences that are a stranger, you don't know my life, and it's not even, it's something more than that.
Exactly. It goes beyond other people, surprisingly.
This question also ties back into the medical services question, because when I went for that surgery, not that surgery, once the nurse was comfortable enough, she had a lot of questions for me. So I volunteered. And they were the ones you would expect, the very most obvious questions possible. They didn't have anything to do with the surgery I was about to have. But at the same time, she was also very concerned because of the news around trans care options for children. So it was an opportunity to speak that there isn't an underage person that's getting surgery. No, that's not happening. When people are able to use puberty blockers to wait to make a decision, first of all, they're using a level of medication that was around before it was used for trans people. It was used for other things. And when they go on puberty blockers, they're able to delay and make a decision later with more knowledge. I wish I could have skipped the first puberty and had the one I wanted. And that can be changed. Nobody can fix that for me. But it can be fixed for others if they can be allowed to wait and decide later.
I just want to mention, like, the people assuming that underage people are having surgery. Me, a fully fledged adult in my 30s, is on a 12 to 14 month wait list for an initial call for a surgery. So it's not like a 16-year-old is not gonna, no, they're not gonna make that list. I have one last question. What are some of your tips or best ways to support somebody who's transgender or questioning their gender identity that you can give someone?
Research yourself. Do your own research. Do not rely on the trans person to tell you every single thing about being trans, because they don't even know themselves. I still don't know everything. I learn new things from meeting these guys tonight. And ask questions, but not what's in my pants. Just be politely curious. Okay? Don't ask me if I got the surgery. Okay? I'll tell you if I'm comfortable if I want to. But just be curious too. Like, I wish people, if they weren't sure about my gender identity or if I use he, him pronouns or she, her pronouns, just ask me. Please ask. Don't make an assumption and then make it awkward for both of us. Okay? Like, just ask me and I'll tell you, okay, great, let's move on. It doesn't need to be an awkward thing. I mentioned I met my partner 9 months after I started my social transition, before I could do any medical or legal stuff. And he told me many years into our relationship that I told him up front when he asked me, like, hey, so like, I'm trans and I'm pursuing this, regardless of how you feel, like, I'm doing this and I'm gonna do whatever process I need to be comfortable. And he was like, all right. He went home and he did his own research. And then we had a conversation, I don't know when after, but he just learned through me what I needed, because every trans person's experience is very different, as you've heard tonight. And he became my biggest supporter and my rock through that entire journey, and I'm still with him today, I'm very happy to say. So, but yeah, like, just do your own research, ask questions, so that you can, if it's your loved one, then you can kind of cater your understanding to what that loved one needs, so you can be their rock, so you can be their support, because my God, this journey can be so lonely, and when we hit road bumps, when we're on wait lists, it's draining emotionally, and it's very, very hard to get through. No wonder there's people dying every year from suicide or hate crimes, because the journey is hard enough. We don't need to fight the world too.
Yeah. This is one of those things that really takes you off guard if you're not sure who you are and how you want to progress, move forward. I just found it. You've got to do research. You have to talk to individuals if you can find them. Like, for me, it was really, really difficult because I could not find any information at all for someone my age to start transitioning. Most information out there is for, say, 20-year-olds and under. And trying to find therapy, trying to find the information, like I said, for older adults to move forward with their transition, knowing how we wanted to proceed. I wouldn't wish, honestly, I wouldn't wish this journey on anybody if you're not sure, because it is draining. Like everybody on this panel will say, it's one of the toughest things I ever did. University was a cakewalk compared to this. And I did 8 years at university. And this thing, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, especially knowing what you have to, the hoops you have to jump through, all the information you need, how you want to proceed. I had none of that. I had no information at all to go by. So that was the hard part. And trying to find the information for my spouse was one of those things. She didn't even know what the word meant. So try and get her the information. Now she's my ally, and we get along fine. Like I said, we've been married for almost 4 years. And, we have 2 grown girls. We have a home in Langley here. We work very, very, very hard. And like I said, being in a profession where mainly males, like it's a male-dominated industry. And I work for a manufacturing firm. I'm retired now, but working for a manufacturing firm that all males as well was very difficult. Although the company was so supportive, I did all my vaccine and everything at that point, all on company time. They were extremely open to my transition, and I am so thankful that I had that support, because I could not have done it otherwise. I would not have known where to look. In high school, all I could find were 2 books in the library that said, this person is straitjacket. Do you think I said anything? No, at that time. That's why I waited so long for my transition to start. And my girls were old enough where they could understand. If I would have started early, I don't know what would have happened. But here we are, and we're all here to support each other. And I am here to support whomever needs my support. So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
As far as supporting people, the first half of the question, there's always one question you can ask: what are your pronouns? You can ask that at any point. So if you don't know, you've met someone, a stranger, or someone you know who has been questioning in the past, and maybe you haven't talked to them in a while. Just, what are your pronouns today? And you can put the today on there. Their pronouns can be different tomorrow. But that goes into the second half of the question. If you're supporting someone who's curious, let them change their mind as much as they want. In fact, there's no time when they may stop. For some, it may go on forever. They may change their pronouns. They may change their presenting gender. They may change their legal gender, and they may do that more than once. And they're not confused. That's their path. That's their identity. And my identity has changed in other ways. There's things I've done in my life that gave me a new label once I did it. You ride a motorcycle a lot, you might be a biker, who knows? But you get these labels in life, and you decide to change your career, and you try to change these other things. And people call it a midlife crisis, but we don't have a path for trans people. So they're very much trying to figure out their gender from the other side of the fence. And so they are going to demonstrate a lot of immaturity, because that's what we do when we develop. And they didn't get the nice, convenient pipeline straight into college and then into life, where now you just act like an adult forever. And there's a lot of things they don't do that aren't very adult-like, because they're figuring it out and nobody can tell them how.
And I want to add, in addition to just doing research online, I think something that's really helpful is coming out to events like this, going to other Pride events, meeting people in your community, because finding things on the internet can be hard. I definitely had to steer people away from certain websites, but I think going to
You don't need to whip out the fanfare, you don't need to flagellate yourself in front of us or anything like that. You correct yourself and move on. If saying sorry feels natural as a Canadian, go ahead, but it's not necessary.
We can probably tell tips to you all, right? I wanted to say thank you for everybody here for coming and speaking with us. I appreciate everybody for working with me on this project. It's my first time doing something like this. Thank you to the City of Langley for hosting and Al for helping set this up. Thank you to everybody here coming out and showing support and solidarity. Hope that by being here with us, you've gotten to know a little bit about a trans person, to see us more than an other, but as somebody you know, somebody who's your neighbor, a colleague, or a friend. For those with us here that are trans or questioning themselves, know that you're not alone and you belong and are valued here. And to allies, remember that allyship is a verb. To stand up and speak out, protect your trans friends, colleagues, and neighbors. Fight against policies, rhetoric, and the silence that allows hatred and violence to thrive. And let us honor the dead by fighting like hell for the living. So we're going to do a 10-minute break. You guys can go to the washroom, and then we can have some Q&As for a little bit. Thank you.
I'll go first. I'll break the ice.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carly, she, her. I am an indigenous author and a mom. And so, just to give a bit of context, I grew up very conservative evangelical church environment. I'm sure we all can relate to some degree in living in this area. My first awareness of queer representation, that they were real people and not just a made-up thing, was watching Glee in 2008. So, I was 20 at the time, and so now I find myself raising a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I am interested in breaking cycles and teaching them things that I did not know and being who I needed when I was younger and all of those good things. So, beyond just being like, oh, anyone can wear any color they like, or clothes or toys or whatever, these things, anyone can play with these things and have fun. It's not a boy thing or a girl thing. How do you, like, when you were kids or when you were in school, what did you wish that the grown-ups in your life had done or said to just open brains a little bit? And because I had so much unlearning to do in my 20s, and it was a process, and I just kind of want to start them young. The gay agenda. Like, do I need to be on the school pack, promoting like Sochi education? Like, how can I just be an ally, but also be myself and be safe and keep my kids safe? Not at all a complicated question. And also, you're all very cute. Thank you for sharing so much of yourselves with us tonight, and I hope you have a self-care plan for when you get home to rest and recuperate. Thank you so much.
You're so sweet.
You're so sweet. And the matching sweaters.
Like, we should have emailed.
We should, yeah. Oh, you should, there we go.
Thank you for bringing up Soji. The more awareness, the more ability with Soji is such a great system to be able to separate not just two categories of sexuality and identity, but also the identity that you are and the identity that you present, which can be different. And it can be chosen to be different. You can choose. There's this wonderful person on Facebook who does a lot of activism who is a trans man and also a femboy. So he gets all dolled up in his cutest clothes. And all the people that can tell are just so confused and lost, and it's great work. It's so amazing. I love everything he does. And he's also comfortable with all the pronouns, so they just can't offend him either. It's great. So I would say if we could change one thing in society, and if there's one thing we can do, that allies could do and parents could do, it's the way that we handle labels. Instead of a label being something that we put on something and say, oh, I've decided you're this, here's your label. We have to understand that labels are a way for me to express myself. These are my labels. Well, why did you choose those labels? Here's what these labels mean to me. The reason I'm a lesbian is different from someone else who's a lesbian. And we get to choose these labels for ourselves, and we get to communicate why.
I think we kind of mentioned about like knowledge is power, truly. So with raising children, just not being afraid to name things and being like this, like it's like there's been times when kids on the bus will be like, "Mommy, is that a boy or a girl?" And the parent will be like, "No, don't. That's rude. Don't talk about that." No, ask. Like, tell your kid, "I'm not too sure. Maybe they're feeling one way or the other. Like, let's go talk to them about it and ask them how they're feeling about it." Just having that openness and like naming things for what they are. Like, I didn't know that transgender was a thing until I moved to the city and met somebody who was trans. So just knowing what it is and not making it be a big scary beast or a monster as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Haley said quick too, that parents in this century, I guess would be the right term, I don't know, 21st century, they're in a unique spot in that now it's not illegal to be trans. It's mostly acceptable, at least here in BC. We're pretty safe to be trans. We're safe to have this event, to talk about this, to help each other, and to say it's okay, that we have processes in place for us to pursue our identities. So parents are in a unique spot in raising the next generation. So I just want to appreciate Carly and any other parents that are here, or parents you know who are going through this. I have a family member whose young son is transitioning to male, and yeah, they've reached out to me plenty of times for questions and support where I go for films and stuff. And it's really good to see parents coming to these events, and yeah, and I'll give you my email.
Tyler, is that the parent that I was supposed to help?
No, that's a different thing. He never reached out to me. He has my number, but yeah. I'm just taking over his job.
One more, I just want to say, outside of schooling and all that kind of thing, I think it's really important to have multiple different types of people around your kids, whether they be queer or trans or people of color. I know when I grew up, it was just white, cis, straight people, and I think being exposed to all sorts of other types of people is really important for children's development.
Sorry, Tony, did you have something to add? It's about she's a parent and wondering how she can help her kids learn about the world.
Yeah, I would say right now that definitely society has matured to a certain point where people are pretty open. People are pretty open for you to talk to. Your children should be able to walk up to any one of us and talk to us and just say, "Are you so and so?" We would have no problem at all discussing it with anybody. It's just a matter of some people, the ignorance of some people, kind of take us off guard, and we have to be very careful about that. But the majority of people are very open and will come talk to you. I say that to anybody I meet, that you know what, if you know of anybody that is questioning, I have no problem at all helping them, discussing it with them, and letting them know procedure, how to proceed with their transition, or finding out the steps they should be taking to get where they want to go. We all know inside where we want to be in life. So I mean, it's a matter. I knew at a very, very young age, but there was no way so I had to wait till the right time. And having role models in society that gave it an okay move for me to start my transition. I grew up in Vancouver, and I was going to say that I was bullied in school. I was small, locked in lockers and thrown in pools, whatever. And I had to deal with that. And if I would have said to anybody at that time that I was different, it would have been, it just would have been crazy. But now I think society is mature enough where anybody should be able to talk to any one of us. If they notice we're a little different, fine, come and talk to us, and we'll let you know in our own words who we are and how, try to put them at ease. Like this whole washroom issue, none of us here, we're just people, and we just want to live our lives, and we're not here to hurt anybody. We're just trying to live our life the best way that we possibly can without any side effects. Like safety and security is the main thing, and that's why we're here tonight. It's just so many others in other countries and haven't met the same time that we have here in Canada. I mean, there have been others that have committed suicide, and that is tragic. That shouldn't happen in a society like ours. But there are others out there that are so distraught because they have nowhere to turn, and they look at society like it's out to get them. In a lot of ways, you have to be very, very careful. So that's why I'm willing to talk to anybody. If anybody has any questions at all, I will be open and talk to them and let them know that it's not bad. We're here just living our lives, and we just want to help out anybody we possibly can. I did that through my working career, and it's no different now. I just wish I would have had the support when I actually started transitioning. I couldn't have done it. It would have been impossible. And it was just the era that I grew up in. So.
Sorry, I said we had a
Yeah. So thank you.
Sorry, you touched on soju. Embrace your soju guys. Find out who they are. Support them. Ask them what you can do. I went to Burnaby. They were doing some public considerations, and so I listened to the people, all the complaints. I wrote down what the complaints were, and then I addressed each issue at the end of the actual meeting. And I did say we should pay our taxes. So I settled the room down, and then I went and said to them, "Are you doing another meeting?" And they said yes. So I went to that meeting too, and then at the very end picked me, and I went through the process again, because you need to support your soju reps, because they will start the process of bringing the level down of the anxiety and craziness.
Anyone else have?
Sorry, I'm going to test this mic, make sure I'm not too loud. All right, thank you. My name is Emily Joy McMillan. I go by she, her pronouns, and tonight I've heard from all of you about some of the barriers that you've faced in healthcare, administration, and there are even some legal barriers out there that throughout the years have been introduced and removed. Thankfully, because of the introduction of Bill C-16, transgender people now have protection under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The previous requirement to live 1 or 2 years as the gender that you identify with, called the real life experience, has now been removed. And we've even seen changes in education with the introduction of things like SOGI. What are some of the barriers that still exist in 2025 that you would like to see removed so that transgender people can better access care, better feel protected and supported?
I have one that's very specific. I used to work as a court clerk in family law, heteronormative. So I think just a lot of language and stuff that takes a long time for people to change vernaculars over. So that's a very specific one that I have, just changing like default languages that we all use and default precedents of legal cases and orders and stuff like that to just say person or parent. And like I use they pronouns, I am an advocate for the singular they. It's just also kind of awkward to be reading something that says he/she would do this. Like just use they like for both parties. But yeah, that's something that takes a really long time. But it's just changing languages in the general society, I guess, to make anybody at any orientation feel welcome to any conversation.
We can do that individually
Yeah.
in our own workplaces by
Yes.
getting documents changed.
Oh, yes.
And I remember at one of the earlier census, I was living with another woman and my youngest son said to me, "What are you doing?" And I'm filling out the census form. And there was only male, female on it, and I drew another little box. And it said other. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, it's for the census. And he said, "Who's a senseless taker?" I said, "You know what? You really hit on the nail on the head." He was 7. And I thought, yep, that's a really good question, Andrew. Thank you so much for asking. But we can all individually do little things to change language in our own workplaces.
Yeah, fight for that.
Move it
Like,
to
I fought for having
language
genders
that's
in
less
the law.
charged
Yeah.
and make it more accessible for everyone.
Just being aware when you're presenting to a room, like I probably said, "Hey guys" earlier, but that's gendered, but that's so hardwired to just say guys, but like we're folks, we're people, we're not all masculine.
No.
It is, so yeah, it's too much.
No.
Yeah,
Can I always say something? Tying that in also with the question about what we teach our children, I think it's good to remember how this all starts, where it all comes from, and it starts with various waves of feminism. My mom had a lot of hang-ups and taught me a lot of those hang-ups, but she also tried to teach me to be a feminist, and she succeeded at that to her own detriment. So the modern intersectional feminism is my brand of feminism, and there isn't a single person that isn't affected by what you can call cis hetero white normativity. Even cis hetero white people live under that enslavement in ways that they sometimes see when they step out of their box. And when they can see it, they don't necessarily want it to be that way. So between fear and bias and prejudice, the more that we understand the intersectionality of all these issues and how trans rights are human rights and all of us become more free is the way forward.
I'm not sure if he exactly answered your question, but
well, I think reducing barriers to medical access is just, there's so many other things that need to be done to even achieve that. But I mean, simply put, it's not a simple solution, but a simple idea is include that in the training our doctors go through, and include, trans people exist. There's some trans care that, you might come across. Maybe open up a course or I've been in university for like 3 years, and I already forgot, like a minor or a diploma or like some side subject to for people pursuing any kind of doctor practice to specialize in gender therapy or gender affirming care for trans folks, non-binary folks, or anybody. That it really just starts with the education that our doctors go through and the funding for that, and obviously that's a huge hot topic in BC as of late because our doctors are already short and burning out. But that would be an idea anyway. I think that would really help reduce some barriers and experiences in medical.
100% more funding for doctors that deal with trans patients, and also just like mandatory training and not optional training for inclusive language. a question that a colleague asked me recently that I thought was interesting. But she asked me, would you ever consider yourself to be done being trans and to stop saying that you're a trans person? I'm staying longer now, sorry. Yeah, I explained to her that it's kind of, it's different for everybody, of course. Like there's some people that they transition, they get to what their end goal is for their body and medical stuff, and then they're done with the community. And that's fine, that's good for them. But like for me, I think about it as like I was born with brown hair, and if I go dye my hair blonde, I'm still a natural brunette. So I still will always identify with being a trans person. And I find a lot of joy in just being weak and just having this little community of trans people and queer people. So, anything to add?
I saw a question in class.
Oh, question in the
I
back.
don't have a question, I don't need the mic either.
Oh.
I don't have a question, I just wanna say, I have learned so much this evening, and I'm blown away by you guys. I am I don't even know what you wanna call me, I'm a straight white woman. And, I don't know enough about all this, I really honestly don't. I just come and volunteer and do what I can where I can, but what I've learned tonight is life changing, so thank you.
Thank you. That's why we have this, to help you learn.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm a strong ally. I don't need a mic either. I'm Jan and I'm non-binary, which I identify as queer, because I like that word, because then you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. My daughter is also queer, and I wanted to address nice sweater person's question.
You should call me Carly if you want.
I couldn't remember it. So what I did as a parent, my kids are in their 20s, and what I did was I tried to remove gender terms, and like somebody would say, oh, does your daughter have a girlfriend? And I just say, no, she's not dating. Like, because they would always put the gender on it. And my daughter didn't realize she was queer until she was 22. And she was like, you figured it out before I did. Because her whole world is heteronormative. So I just always tried to remove gender and not to make assumptions. Like, because of how I present, people assume I'm something, but they have no idea. Right? So just as a parent, I found that really helped. So my kids, they kind of found their own way, and then their friends are very accepting, and it works really well. So, but thank you to all of you. It was awesome.
That is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing about kids. Like, I'm 20, I don't have kids. I'll foster one day, but that's gonna be like, 10, 12 years in the future. But I think that's the beautiful thing with kids, is they are naturally curious. They haven't been socially ingrained with what to ask, what not to ask, like even the pronouns, like your example earlier. They're just curious. I mean, I've had a kid I was out for 6 months or so, and it was my first job ever, and I was working with it was one of those Go Bananas type places. Don't work there ever. I cleaned all those things. I don't know how kids have the energy to go through that. I certainly didn't. But I had a little girl come up to me and are you a boy or a girl? And I was like, oh, I'm a boy. And the mom looked so embarrassed and guilty that she asked me. And I was like, no, it's all good. Please ask always. But that's just the kid doesn't know that that made the mom uncomfortable. She was just curious, so she asked. It's an innocent question. So I think, the more kids are exposed to, bring your kids to Pride, right? Regardless of how they identify or who they're gonna be or not be, just expose them to that. Kids are smart. They will figure it out, and if you can provide that safe space at home for them too, then they will always, always be able to be themselves and explore, right? Because the world's not always going to be safe, sadly. Just have that 2 cents.
Hi.
Oh,
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, Emily again. So I consider myself very fortunate to have a lot of really hard conversations with a lot of people nearly, if not multiple times a day, around the issue of transgender existence. And every one of you have shared a story tonight where you've advocated for yourself or you've had to put yourself in a position to have those hard conversations. If somebody were to approach you as a, I guess the term might be baby trans, or somebody who's just freshly out as being trans, and they say, hey, I need to have a really hard conversation tomorrow, it could be about anything. What advice would you give to that person who is about to go and advocate for themselves on something as hard as transgender issues?
You mean like they're going to their doctor's appointment or something like that? Or
Yeah, so
come out to somebody?
yeah,
Or
exactly.
choosing like a job interview?
All three, all of the above. So they're saying, hey, tomorrow I gotta talk to my mom about I'm trans, or I gotta talk to my doctor and ask for hormones. Whatever the situation is, it's all a process of self-advocacy. It's a hard conversation to have, and I know we've all gone through that. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody to better be an advocate for themselves?
I personally learned through trial and error, unfortunately, but I remember when I was ready to come out to my mom, it was a month before high school graduation, and I Googled how to come out to my mom as trans. And man, in 2015, there was some experiences out there, and most of them were bad. So I even had a backup plan to stay with a friend in case she kicked me out. But she was here earlier, she had to go home, but she was, she obviously didn't do that. But I kind of chickened out because I could never get the words out. So I wrote her a letter and I taped it to the garage door for her to find. And I hid in the bathroom when she came home. And then she left. I didn't know she was coming home at that time, so I wasn't ready. But she sent me a text like, I love you, we'll talk later. And we did, and I don't remember any of it. But it was 10 years ago. But, that's what worked. It gave her time to process on her own, gather her thoughts, probably talk to my stepdad. And then we chatted, and we had many conversations and many arguments as we figured things out. So it's really just what you feel, when it comes to coming out to someone, I'll focus on that. It's really what you feel comfortable with. What is gonna make you feel safe? And then have, like I had, I didn't have to, but I did. I had a backup plan. I had a safe place to go to if I needed to. Maybe come up to a close friend first, or you kind of gauge those in your life. You listen to your gut instinct. Who's going to have your back if shit hits the fan? I can say that now, right? You establish everyone's an adult here. Like, if it gets bad, right? Like, you have that safe place to go. And unfortunately, I think we're still at a place we need to have that plan. If your parents, if you're still, I was living, I was 17, so I was still living with my mom. But yeah, just protect yourself, do what you feel is right, and what you are comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, that's what you have control over. That's what's most important. I never really worried about my doctor, but she wasn't, my family doctor, but she wasn't comfortable dealing, I'm her first trans patient, I guess, so she wasn't comfortable dealing with hormones, so I had to navigate other avenues, and obviously figured that out, so. But she was very lovely, still.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
No, I was just gonna say, that is probably the toughest thing that, you go through when you first start. I had the family. I had my girls and I had my spouse to deal with. I had all my friends. So for me, it was like I had to choose. My timing had to be perfect, and when I was going to tell my spouse. It was, like I said, it was probably the hardest thing I ever did, because I had to open up to a confidant first, which was my best friend. And it was funny, we were tubing down the river, and I talked to him. We were right in the middle of rapids, and I was talking to him, and he said, you know what, all you have to do is tell my spouse in the best way that you possibly can, break it to her gently. And all I did was, for me, it was lucky because we were really close to Transgender Day of Awareness. So I emailed her a quick clip on what it meant to be transgender. And of course, when she opened the email, it was like, what's this all about? And that was breaking the ice for me, and I told her. And at first she was really open to it, and we went from there. But you have to, for me, it was accepting the consequences of that decision that I had to make at the time. It was the perfect timing for me. And honestly, for me, it was either lose my family or lose myself. And it's funny when you're caught in a catch-22. For me, it was I had to do it for myself. I know I could have lost everything that I had, but I had to do it. You really don't have a choice. For some of the younger people, I can see it probably being an easier situation. For me, it was do or die. I mean, I had no choice. I would have lost everything if it would have went the other way. And I was fortunate to be around people that accepted me. After a year or two into with my spouse, we had one, oh my Lord. We had arguments, and that's another story, but it was not good, but we survived it. It took a long time. For me, it's about 10 years now, so we renewed our wedding vows and everything too, so that was part of the name change thing too, because of course the courts didn't recognize my new name on my marriage license, so we had to renew our vows with my name. All I did was change a Y to an I, and my middle name, so I had to keep the acronyms for all my drawings on my engineering work. So yeah, all I did was change Tony to an I. It was great, and that was a minor thing, but yeah, that was tough for me. That was really tough. So if you have any questions, let me know.
So I actually recently went through this. My cousin came out to me as trans, and she said, I have to come out to my mom, and she had to go to talk to her endocrinologist, and I accompanied her to the endocrinologist appointment. She still hasn't come out to her mom yet, but I volunteered for that too. It helps to have a safe person with you to help you advocate for yourself. And other than that, I just always write notes. What I write down what I want, what I'm kind of expecting to happen, worst case scenario, and it helps me prepare. And I recently had an appointment where I was telling my doctor I wanted a certain medication, and I said I want this medication, and he said, oh, I don't think you should have that, and I said I want that medication, and I didn't back down, and that's kind of the advice that I give with anything, whether it's coming out or
Just say the trans community has been really amazing. There's been things that we've addressed rather quickly, like trans medicalism, the idea that you have to do something to be trans. We squashed that idea a long time ago. And I might lose my cat ears for betraying this secret, but what you call a person who might be trans or is early trans is an egg. And the reason why is because if you break an egg from the outside, it's dead. But if an egg breaks on its own, it's life. And that's really important to remember, because I want to tell everybody how to do things. I'm that kind of person, and I can't tell another trans person how to be trans. It doesn't work. I can create a space for them to exist, and I can teach them to advocate for themselves, but they have to choose what that path is. So when you look at all of us and you think this is really awesome, remember too, there's something called survivorship bias. You meet a lot of strong trans people because we have to be strong to get here. It's what we have to do. Nobody's going to ever give us permission.
We have time for one more you can do that. Any other question?
I do have a question about, you brought up the dental. I do consulting with a lot of dental offices, and I'd love to know your feedback on what you would like to see changed in a dental office to be more inclusive.
I think I kind of said that more like kind of a joke. That like
Happens though.
it
I
happens.
literally had that actually at my last dentist appointment.
Yeah.
I had a different hygienist than I
Yeah.
usually do. I didn't realize that until I got there, but I was like, oh, whatever. But yeah, she was like, oh, you're trans. Yeah, I'm trans. Because I'm on medication for endo. And yeah, and then the whole like 45-minute teeth cleaning was her talking about trans stuff, but she didn't know a lot about trans stuff, so you asked me questions, but then she put her fingers in my mouth, and I'm like, oh, like, let's have it, like, if you wanna know, I'm all for it, but time and place, and I think maybe in the dental community, there should just be at least a little awareness. Sometimes you're gonna get trans patients, they need their teeth cleaned too, or a cavity filled or whatever. It just seemed like there was a lack of awareness, and that was the only experience, my 10 years of going. I've gone to the dentist my whole life, but my 10 years of being trans, that has been my only situation, but it was the last time I went to the dentist this year, and it just really caught me off guard, and my mom was like, you should complain, like, I don't want to be that person. So I didn't, but it's obviously stuck with me. And I obviously made a note on my phone to not book with that hygienist again. Because I don't want to, I'm there to get my teeth cleaned, I'm not there to educate you. You can say, hey, would you be open to, I want to learn more, would you be free to chat another time? That's fine, please. Or chat with your colleagues maybe, who have already known me for years, or whatever. I think it just felt like a lack of awareness, really. But I think that can go with a lot of doctors in general, as well. It's definitely not.
I was just gonna say, like in general, maybe in internal systems with patient files, there's an option to put preferred pronouns, preferred name, because we haven't all changed our name legally, and somebody might be very early stages of transition, and you default want to say she, but they're a guy. So I don't know, rework your systems to have more information on patient files, maybe.
I appreciate that.
That's actually what I was gonna say. When I started at my new dentist, they had legal name and preferred name, which is nice. But no section for pronouns. So I actually suggested that to them, and they added it.
We'll talk later.
But yeah, and also just being willing to take our advice and change the forms if we ask you to.
It's 8:30, we should let them go home. We could talk all night.
Yeah, we can talk all night. Like I said, you can find me and ask me personal trans questions. You can find any of us and accost us on the street now. Thank you everybody for coming.